Why should we be so concerned with self-esteem? One person commented, quote, "It turns out most of my problems stem from not liking myself in some way," unquote. That's from a self-esteem course by Joanna Moore, who talks about shyness in this video. Shyness can often overlap with introversion and high sensitivity.
Since I've launched Twisted Sleeve, I've heard from, well, first I've been surprised by the amount of people who like think that it applies to them. Like I had no idea that so many people consider themselves shy or just kind of lacking in confidence or whatever.
Yeah.
And quite a few have told me that they didn't used to be shy, and it was kind of, they were kind of almost taught that it was that girls needed to be quiet and like kind of reserved and stuff, and so they took on a shy identity. I was completely shocked by that because like that's not my personal experience, but that's quite alarming. But then another thing that I wanted to say is that so about a year ago I had like a mega big realization. I felt like I'd always seen myself as this quiet, shy, boring, geeky person. Like, I always got the top marks. I was like, my teachers always told me that I needed to put my hand up more. I was like having kind of like crisis about like careers and stuff, and so I was kind of going back to basics and thinking everything over again, and like, who am I and all that sort of stuff. And it suddenly dawned on me that I wasn't actually boring. Like I realized all these things that I had done that weren't boring, and that like just really, if you picture like a dull person with like glasses, drowning in books, like having no life, like that's not who I was. Like, I'd lived in 4 countries, I'd traveled to a different country to go to a party with before. Like even if I hadn't done those things, like even if I hadn't done like big things, if I'm with family or like really, really close friends, I'll make them laugh. Like the idea that I had of myself in my head was wrong.
Psychologist Elaine Aron says she's found that low self-esteem underlies most depression, anxiety, and failed relationships. But she warns that repeating self-affirmations only increases low self-esteem in those already feeling bad.
This book is written for everybody because I think we all undervalue ourselves from time to time, and some people do it chronically. We're more familiar with that, but we all do it at times. It's very natural. If we've been through a defeat of some kind, we've lost our job or divorce or just lost at a game, we start undervaluing ourselves in all directions. So somebody meets us and we don't know, but they like us fine. We think that they wouldn't be interested in us. We're not attractive enough. We're not smart enough. They're too busy. And often we found out later that they would have enjoyed being with us. So we just blew it. We undervalued ourselves. We're social animals, and we naturally have to rank ourselves against others. We have to see how good we are.
If there was 3 things that people could take away from this talk today, they would be, number 1, would be to normalize the imposter syndrome. In other words, there's often that feeling that it's just me and I'm the only one who has these feelings of fraudulence. So to know that you're not alone, I think is an enormous aha right there for a lot of people, and very just liberating in and of itself. Number two, I believe that the fastest path to overcoming the imposter syndrome is to redefine competence, because people who identify with the imposter syndrome have these unsustainably high self-expectations around doing everything perfectly, or doing everything alone, being the expert, and particularly with graduate students. I have these different types, these personality competence types: the perfectionist, the rugged individualist, the expert. There's a few more, but the expert is particularly prevalent on college campuses because it would make sense because you're here to learn as much as you can. But often people just hang out way too long. There's always one more book to read, one more class to take, one more degree to get, waiting to wake up and feel like now I'm the expert. So that's a big takeaway, I think. And along with that, it's to develop a different response to failure and mistake making and criticism. And people who identify with the imposter syndrome tend to personalize those things more. So if somebody says to you that report or that dissertation or that comps, whatever was inadequate, what you hear is, I'm inadequate. And we have to kind of separate ourselves from the criticism and, lick our wounds a little bit and then see how we can grow and improve and move forward.
Yes, I think, the idea really is to emphasize something that hasn't been highlighted enough in the past, which is there are some positive consequences or implications to not feeling very confident or to having low confidence and even being a bit insecure and anxious. And there are actually quite a few negative consequences or implications of being confident. And so the first thing to say and to highlight is that confidence per se or on its own is neither good nor bad. We need to look at it in conjunction or relative to actual competence, okay? And then you realize that actually there are few people who have a perfectly aligned confidence and competence, And in fact, when we're looking at those cases, then confidence becomes irrelevant because it's just a marker of actual ability or skills.
Thanks for watching. Self-esteem is, of course, a very broad topic. You can find a lot more material in the related articles, part 1 and 2, and keep exploring it for yourself. It matters.